Welcome everybody. In today's translational longevity series, the presentation of CellTalk, Dr. Jogita Das will talk about aging, what is it, and how to prevent it. Dr. Jogita is a clinical content writer at Phoenix. She is responsible for writing scientific content and clinical white papers on healthcare-related topics with a main focus on oncology and immunology. Jovita has a doctoral degree in life sciences from Symbiosis International, Pune, and her research work focuses on diabetes and vitamin D. At Renix, she has gained experience in scientific writing. Let us welcome Jovita into this presentation.
Thank you, Nupur, for the nice introduction, and welcome to all. And as a part of Translational Longevity series, today I will be delivering talk on aging, what is it, and how to prevent it. And here is the list of references that I have selected for the today's talk. What is aging? Aging, it is irreversible process of getting older. It is defined as the time-related deterioration in the physiological functions that are necessary for survival and the fertility. But aging, it is an inevitable part of everyone's life, and it is basically a complex phenomenon that is driven by many different factors like environmental factors, genetic factors, and the lifestyle factors. Aging can be seen at three different levels: cellular level, molecular level, and the physiological level. At both cellular level and the molecular level, with respect to the age of the individual, there is accumulation of the many cellular and molecular damage. That is damage to the, there is decline in the capacity of the cells, there is decline in the functioning, or there is accumulation of the damage in the DNA, proteins, and the cellular organelles. And further, this leads to the gradual decline in the physical and cognitive functions of the individual. So because of this accumulation of the damage and many mutations in the aging processes, the person may be prone to development of many age-related pathologies. That includes the neurodegenerative disorders, many metabolic disorders, cardiovascular disorders, cerebrovascular disorders, and many lifestyle-related disorders. Here are the major hallmarks of the aging. Here are the major 9 hallmarks of the aging. That is the genomic instability. It is characterized by the accumulation of the mutations. Then there is telomere attrition, or we can say the shortening of the telomere with respect to the cell division of the chromosome. There is also changes in the gene expression pattern, or in some cases there is shift in the gene expression, which leads to the epigenetic alterations in the older individuals. In aging individuals, as the cell ages, there is loss of proteostasis, that is, cell loses its ability to maintain the protein homeostasis, and there is accumulation of more damage, or we can say the misfolded proteins. Because of these all changes that happens in with respect to the age of the individual, there is deregulation in the nutrient sensing pathways, there is mitochondrial dysfunction, reduction in the energy production, there is accumulation of more and more senescent cells as a part of cellular senescence, and there is development of the stem cell exhaustion and the alterations in the intercellular cell-to-cell communications. These 9 hallmarks are functionally interconnected in between, and they have been divided into 3 different steps, or we can say the part. First is the primary hallmarks. These primary hallmarks consist of the genomic instability, that is accumulation of the mutations, telomere attrition or the shortening of the telomere, epigenetic alterations, and the loss of proteostasis. These 4 primary hallmarks that leads to the damage to the cells, cellular organs, and the cellular components. And this, and on the basis of, or we can say as a consequence of consequences of these primary hallmarks or the damage, organelle damage, there is development of the antagonistic mechanisms or antagonistic hallmarks. These hallmarks are come into the picture with respect to the response to the damage, and they include deregulation in the nutrient sensing pathway, decreased mitochondrial functioning, and the cellular senescence. Because of these primary and antagonistic hallmarks, there is development of specific phenotype, that is stem cell exhaustion and the altered intercellular communication. Because of this stem cell exhaustion, there is decrease in the tissue regeneration capacity, and because of this altered intercellular communication, there is changes in the signaling molecules, which can lead to the defects in many molecular and cellular pathways. So question comes that can we prevent aging or can we slow down the aging processes? This question has raised attention in since last 3 to 4 decades. First we see the what is the lifespan of the individual. The maximum lifespan of individual, it is the characteristic of the species, and it is the number of years a member of that species has known to survive. And in case of the humans, we can extend human life up to 121 to 122 years. And so there are so many promising interventions that targets the hallmarks of the aging. These all interventions are under the research, and it includes the calorie restriction and the fasting that mimics the diet to activate the longevity pathways. Further, as we already seen in the hallmarks of the aging, as the person ages, there is accumulation of more and more senescent cells, which contribute to the tissue degeneration. So in that case, senolysis can be used to remove this type of the senescent cells. Also, telomere activators can use to lengthen the telomeres, and that can help to avoid the telomere shortening. Also, mitochondrial regeneration therapies are there to improve the energy production and reduce the amount of free radical generation. Also, gene editing technologies has received much attention in the last decades, and this includes the CRISPR-Cas9 that can use to potentially repair DNA damage and address many genetic risks. Here in today's talk, I'll be focusing on the calorie restriction and the impact of calorie restriction on the aging processes. Calorie restriction, it is the most effective non-genetic intervention that can be used to delay the aging processes. It is also known as dietary restriction, and it involves reduction in the calorie intake by 20 to 50% without depriving essential nutrients. That results in the changes in molecular processes that are associated with the aging. Actually, calorie restriction, it is widely used in the aging research, and in many research articles, it has already demonstrated substantial benefits in the human longevity. Can CR used to boost the longevity, or how calorie restriction boosts longevity? If there is calorie restriction, there is absence of glucose, and there is reduction in the level of insulin and the insulin-like growth factors. Both the reduction in the insulin level and the absence of the glucose can lead to the inhibition of the mTOR. We know that mTOR is associated with the many human pathologies. So inhibition of the mTOR by both the factors glucose and the insulin, although they inhibit mTOR through different way, but the inhibition of the mTOR by these factors can have positive impact on the longevity, because as there is inhibition of the mTOR, it favors the maintenance and the repair mechanisms, and in turn it can be beneficial in the longevity or to extend the lifespan of individual. Also, longevity pathways, it interacts autophagic processes in many different ways, as it is related to the differentiation, many cellular processes like differentiation, growth, cell death, response to the nutrient deprivation. So targeting these all pathways can be beneficial to extend the lifespan in the human individuals. Coming to the discussion part, there is many studies there that are targeting the calorie restriction and studying the impact of calorie restriction on the longevity of the individuals and the aging processes. Here in the calorie study, they have evaluated the impact of 12% calorie restriction on muscle quality and the health in healthy individuals over the span of 2 years. And in this study, they have observed that muscle strength remained unchanged or unaltered even after the 2 years of the calorie restriction, although they have noticed minor muscle mass losses. Also, they have seen the significantly altered gene expression and the pathways that are related to the muscle quality and health. These all pathways have a positive impact, have impact on the biological pathways, which includes the protein homeostasis, circadian rhythm regulation, DNA repair mechanism, apoptosis, inflammation, mitochondrial biogenesis. Also, calorie restriction have a positive impact on the genes that can regulate the longevity pathway, like the FOXO gene. So the modifications in this pathway partially explain the positive impact of calorie restriction on the muscle quality. So moderate calorie restriction have several effects on the muscle and the overall health. So this can be a benefit in the overall aging process and the disease prevention. Another study have targeted the calorie restriction and studied the impact of calorie restriction on the many different aging biomarkers. Here they have studied several blood-based markers of the cellular aging and cellular senescence. And they observe that moderate calorie restriction how impact on the moderate calorie restriction can decline the blood-based markers of the cellular aging and cellular senescence after 12 and 24 months of the calorie restriction. Additionally, they have also observed that calorie restriction have a positive impact on the metabolic health. Calorie restriction can have positive impact on the insulin sensitivity. It can enhance the insulin sensitivity and the metabolism in individuals, those who are on the calorie restricted diet as compared to the individuals, those who are not on any type of the calorie restricted diet. Also, they have observed gene expression shift. They have observed that there were notable reduction in the senescence related gene expression in individuals, those who are on the calorie restricted diet. Further, another study have evaluated the impact of long-term calorie restriction on the DNA methylation pattern. And they have observed that calorie restriction slowed the rate of biological aging that were measured by the specific DNA methylation algorithm. But it does not have any significant impact on the DNA methylation clocks like the PhenoAge and the GreenAge. Despite the small effect or the modest effect of the calorie restriction on DNA methylation, it can have significant public health benefits as it has shown the impact on the rate of the biological aging. As we already seen in the hallmarks of the aging, as there is as the person ages, there is degeneration in the different tissues and organs. And major degeneration we are seeing in the movement and other capacities which are related to the nervous system or the neurological systems. And if there is a neurodegeneration, then there is chances of development of many neurodegenerative diseases like the Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's disease. So it is crucial to understand this age-related neurodegeneration and how we can regulate this age-related neurodegeneration through simple lifestyle changes. Here in this study, they have studied the impact of calorie restriction on age-related Parkinson's symptoms or the signs. And they observed that calorie restriction can increase the dopamine signaling marker like tyrosine hydroxylase. Calorie restriction can help in the enhancement of the dopamine signaling that can help to regulate the symptoms related to the Parkinson's. Another way to study the longevity, or we can say decline the age-related changes, is to have the polyphenol-rich diet. In this study, they have studied the impact of polyphenol-rich diet and on the biological aging. Here they have assigned 3 different interventions. First interventions was the healthy dietary guidelines. One group received the healthy dietary guidelines, another group received Mediterranean diet, and the third group received the Mediterranean diet, but that diet was rich in the polyphenol, which is known as the green Mediterranean diet. Both the Mediterranean diet group consumed 28 grams of all-net per day as a source of polyphenols. Additionally, green Mediterranean diet group consumed green tea and mankai as an additional source of the polyphenols. And in this study, they have observed that both the Mediterranean diet group that have increased polyphenol intake are inversely associated with the biological aging. Here we discuss on the impact of calorie restriction on muscle health, biologic aging, various different markers of the aging. But there are some considerations that should be taken into account before boarding onto the calorie restriction. There is individual variability. Every individual is different. Every individual has different metabolism and metabolic rate. So before boarding onto the calorie restriction, person should consider about the individual variability. Also, long-term calorie restriction can lead to the nutrient deprivation. So having the calorie restriction along with the essential nutrient adequacy, it is recommended. Also, before going to the calorie restriction, person should the person's medical condition should be taken into account. Like person is having any type of the medical conditions like the diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, or any cerebrovascular disorders or the neurodegenerative diseases, that should be taken into account while designing the calorie restriction for that individual. Also, calorie restriction have different impact on the age and life stage. calorie restriction have different impact in the young individual, middle-aged individuals, and the elder individuals. So this should be considered before going for the calorie restriction. Also, long-term or calorie restriction for an extended period can have some potential risk like loss of muscle mass, decreased energy levels, and the increased susceptibility to the nutrient deficiency. So these all points should be considered before going on to the calorie restriction. Coming to the conclusion, we have seen that calorie restriction have an influence in many aging processes through various mechanisms like autophagy, inflammation, oxidative stress, epigenetic modifications. Epigenetic modification, that is changes in the gene expressions. But this approach is not a one-size-fits-all solution. So it not be suitable or it may not be advisable for every individual. Before going to the calorie restriction, persons should consult with an healthcare professional. And also further research should be carried out to identify the specific signaling pathways that involve in the anti-aging effect of calorie restriction to develop the targeted or the personalized interventions. Thank you all. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your kind attention. If you have any query, you can find me at yogita@trainings.org. Thank you again.
Thanks, Yogita. It was a nice presentation. So the forum is open now for questions and answers. I don't find any questions. I have a question. Calorie restriction, basically, in practical sense, it implies dietary restriction. So at which age a person should start following the dietary restriction to slow down its aging process?
Actually, as I have raised one point in the caution about the calorie restriction, that it has different impact on the age and the life stage. It has different impact on the young individuals and different impact on the older individuals. If person is obese or person has dyslipidemia at the younger age, then it is advisable to go for the calorie restriction at the younger age. But if person is apparently healthy at the younger age, so there is not recommendation for the calorie restriction, because if you are on the calorie restriction for an extended period of time, you are prone to develop nutrient deficiencies. So this point should be taken into account before going for the calorie restriction. But it is advisable for the obese patients, whether the patient is young or the older.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the answer. Thank you for the presentation. So I don't find any other questions. I thank Yogita, and we close the session for today. Thank you, everybody.